Hey
Yo,
everyone, welcome to another week of Freight Gong Friday. We have a couple extra guests with us today that happen to be in person here in Chicago with me. We got Dilo
Hey everyone.
from Levity AI, one of the co-founders, and Adrian from GateGo, who's sitting across from us, but will be muted and
are you
hopefully,
guys all in your apartment?
yeah, in the co-working space. So,
Nice.
yeah, we figured that we'd be doing a recap. You know, I told them they should stop by and work out of here. So, Delos, I think you're flying out today.
Yeah, I'm flying at 4 p.m.
Did Paul leave? Is he gone?
Yeah, Paul left on. I think he flew out on Wednesday, and got back to Poland yesterday. So they were already on 4 a.m. meeting, but it's going to take me a little bit to convert back to the 4 a.m. schedule a little bit. So
What Adrian, how long you been out there?
When did I got here?
you're gonna have to speak up. Can
I
you
got here Wednesday, I think.
wait? Can you actually hear Adrian or no?
I mean, I could hear him on your mic. Sounds like
Okay,
he's
that's
super
good.
far away.
Okay,
But-
all right, sounds good.
But
As long as
Adrian,
it works.
You had lunch with Rob?
Yeah,
What you guys went to Pequod's? What'd you think of the pizza?
it was good. Yeah, deep
You
dish.
feel like you want to take a nap after it or what?
I actually took a big nap after.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone eats that stuff.
I just learned about that place. And what is it like? Slightly north of the.
It's not terribly. I mean, it's like I don't remember where it is exactly, but it's not terribly far.
Yeah, I don't, did you just leave?
Oh, did
I think you just left. But anyway, yeah, I heard really good things compared to other deep dish pizzas. Right? Did you have deep dish when you were here yet?
Not yet. The only
Okay.
pizza I had was with you yesterday. So
That's right. That was pretty good too. But yeah, deep dish is like super thick. But it's like a Chicago thing. Once you're here, you gotta try it out. So, all right. Well,
So what's the good word this week? What's going on, dude? I've been out of the loop. I've been out of the loop at all.
I've
I have no idea what's going on anywhere.
yeah, this week was a little bit hectic for sure. But that's the point of Freight Kong Fridays. So we all go over and figure out what's going on. But I think the biggest thing that happened this week was that the FTC banned
Yeah.
the non-competes. So let me go ahead here and share my screen. We can kind of pull up that article real quick, but maybe we can get Matt, armchair attorney, on here. Maybe he's free, but to say a couple things. But let's see.
I think we already have enough guests.
Yeah, that could be the case too.
So all right. So what the high level is, they're not actually, I mean, they're basically moving towards this, right? Like there's going to be a prolonged legal battle. Like don't quit your job right now is basically the
seems like
long
that's the case.
TLDR,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. That seemed like it was the case that you could quit your job, and start another freight brokerage. Which, funny enough, actually we saw like at least two people already leave their companies, and that was interesting to see, kind of like in real time. Some people actually trying to enact on that
Yeah.
non-compete ban. But then today, so we'll go over basically what happened kind of like with the non-compete ban itself. But I think, probably a lot of people have heard about this at this point.
Yeah.
What happened. But there's some news today about kind of a challenge to that. I think it was more or less expected, but I don't know how good of an effort, how successful it's going to be. But nonetheless, the FTC chair, Lena Khan, will put a final rule to ban the non-competes. And I think in the broader freight market, there's a lot of like conversation. There's been a lot
Bro,
of
what's going to happen? Like, that's crazy because that's like the ammo that a lot of these companies use to it's like a moat in a sense. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't
especially
know
for a lot of these bigger, especially, they sign these college kids to non-competes, right? They have no idea what's going on. And you sign these to get a job wherever, and then next thing you know, you're like, man, this place sucks, but I've got a couple good customers, like, and you're hosed, like you can't really do anything. And everyone knows that, like, at the end of the day, a lot of these customers would just want to work with the person. They don't necessarily care about the company. They want to work with the person, right? The rep. And then if the rep leaves, like, a lot of the times the relationship is screwed up anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. I know in California they you can't enforce non-competes, which I don't know to what extent, honestly, that's contributed to California's like just general economic boom, particularly around tech. But I know that like tech workers themselves would just work at a company like I don't know, and like Uber or whatever, and they would just like float around to between all of the competitors. I never knew how I exactly felt about that. I don't know. What's your take? Like,
I mean,
you've seen that probably as well. Like in California, people can float around and they can basically take the knowledge, and the knowledge just kind of like floats around all the companies too. Right?
I wouldn't do it, but I think, if someone wants to do it, they should be able to.
Yeah, that's true. I would say that like in general, I've always when I've talked to some people about it before, they've always kind of saw that that not behavior, but like the way that things operated in California, because of the fact that you can't enforce non-competes, was that it's harder to find like people who are loyal. Necessarily, I don't know if you've heard similar comments, but just hopping from one
Probably.
company.
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if we'll see that in freight itself, but what I do like about the fact that you can't enforce non-competes is the fact that you really now actually have to compete for retaining talent. Like you have to have a good company culture.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when Grace said she'll be here in any second, and she's worked in the brokerage world, so she'll probably have a. I never actually even. This is. I actually have no idea if I had a non-compete at my first broker role.
Reed, you're gonna have to let me know if Grace is in the room, because I'm operating off one monitor today. So.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I have no idea. I don't even remember.
At Echo.
Yeah, I don't know if they made carrier rep sign those. I don't, because when you're carrier rep, it's a bit harder to like port your book of business, because your book of business is really just like carrier relationships, and it's not really as portable.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
it's mostly the business, comes from like the shipper relationships. But.
Yeah, exactly. So like, yeah. So I don't know, but Grace will probably have some opinions on this. And
Yeah.
I know.
Did you break it without knowing?
I mean, don't come after me, guys. No. I didn't take a carrier sales role after that. So, yeah.
So
No.
this is interesting, but.
Bro, Grace is in the.
Okay.
Yeah. Bring. Oh, nice.
Yeah, I had to show that. Hey, Grace, how are you doing?
Grace. Unmute yourself. Come on, you're supposed to be a pro.
That's like my number one quality, is not coming into a show muted. Yeah, that was an inception of a screen there for a second. That's what I was saying.
Sorry about that. That's what happens when I have to operate off of one screen, but we have a special circumstances today.
All right, Christian. Introduce Grace to. Well, she knows Adrian.
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, who is.
So, everybody. This
I'm getting coffee. I'm getting coffee while you do this.
Yeah, Grace. I think maybe I'll let you make your own introduction, but Grace is from Freightwaves. We've known Grace for quite some time. She's a very energetic spirit, brings a lot of energy to the room, and she was reporting on a lot of what was happening this week with the non-competes as well. So thanks, Grace, for coming on.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I mean, you just did a fabulous job. Yeah, I work at Freightwaves. I was in the broker space for about a decade or so. So that sounds old. And yeah, it's happy to be here. It's and I'm on the non-competes thing, very excited for it. I mean, I think this industry makes me laugh because especially on the broker side, everyone wants to like he and haw about them having some special sauce, and it's like, no, none of you have a special sauce. Like you're all doing the shady, same shady shit in the background, working off like if there's a special sauce, it's DAT and Truck Stop who have a special sauce. So yeah, it's I'm all for it. I think, but I will say what's interesting about this is like as brokerages get more technology driven and start having more of like builders and developers on their teams, I could see non-competes becoming something that's a little bit more reasonable. But slang and freight, people have been doing it for since the original truck, right? Like there's no special sauce of nothing that's really putting you, I think, totally above the competition. I totally believe in non-solicits. That's fair.
Yeah.
And even in some situations, though, it's like how you get those customers and how they move. Like, especially like these agent model brokerages, and like if someone leaves and they like don't like working with you as a company, but like
Yeah.
working with a person, which is I think the problem with a lot of this is like the agent models build that type of relationship so easily. It's like that's what you get for not turning it into like cradle to grave and like or sorry buy sell, right? Like that's what you get. You've forced that hand. So yeah, we could get into it, but
Rob,
overall,
what did
happy.
Rob tweeted something that was basically like he thinks that if this goes into effect, this is going to be like good for all the agent model companies.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna allow companies to actually compete for talent, and it's gonna force them to have to do a better job as a company, as an employer, right? And you're going to be now competing on the basis of, is your place of work good, like, welcoming? Is it attractive to people to spend 8 hours of their day, contributing to that workplace? And if it isn't, then there's now going to be many opportunities that they can go and explore elsewhere. So I think in aggregate, I would definitely say that it's better for competition. It's better for the end users, all right? So like either whether that be shippers, whether that be carriers, it's going to be overall, I think, a net positive. And I don't know.
I want to say a little quickly to that though. Also, I think it also is going to you're going to have to build up your carrier relationships and capacity, because we've all seen, like, at least I've seen it 1,000 times, like a big dog from maybe an NTG or something like that comes to a smaller brokerage and tries to bring a customer over, tries to do something along those lines, or work with in the same type of maybe services, right? Like wants to go into auto, but it's like if you don't have the carrier capacity behind it, it doesn't matter how good of a sales rep you are. You still need to build up the carrier base to handle the freight. So I think if anything, yes, it'll the competition in regards to like being able to move more freely will push you to offer more than just like ping pong tables in the back. But also, you better have I better not be leaving a C.H. Robinson to go to a brokerage that's a main source of capacity is DAT.
That's also a fair point too. So like, just make sure you know who you're leaving to, and prepare yourself for like a good well-established company that getting your capacity from DAT is not a good strategy.
No, you can have NDAs, like the companies are going to have NDA, so they might protect some information, but yeah, you're not tied to that company. You can go work at a competing company.
Yeah, exactly. This doesn't apply to NDAs though, right? From my understanding.
Like
NDAs should still be in effect.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So then I guess in addition to like, okay, so the FTC news dropped on.
Can you let read in?
Sorry?
Can you let read in?
Oh yeah, sure. this is like super tricky to navigate here, but
Whoa.
Yeah.
we're gonna have a little bit of an inception moment a couple times here.
Hey, at
Provided-
least you don't have like 1,000 tabs open. That's my favorite. People share their
No, he
screen.
does. He does. He just doesn't. Dude, fuck. Arc is impossible to use. I don't know how you use it. I physically
I cannot use another browser other than Arc. And for those of you that don't know, like Arc is basically Google Chrome, but it's just a little bit more fancier and organized, I would say. But anyway, like I do have a lot of other tabs open, but just like in another window. So,
All right. So hold on. All right. I think Leffler. I just saw a tweet from him that he's going on with Dooner today. So I'll tune in and listen to him speak passionately about this subject.
cool.
I mean, but it's not. It doesn't apply to executives. Like the salary is like there's like a salary law baked into it, right? It's like 150.
That one I think is going to be more fun to see. Yeah. You're talking about the overtime pay increase in minimum salary?
No. Oh, I don't even know about that. I was just saying that I think there's like this law doesn't apply to people who make over like 151K in a salary. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like executives are still subject to non-competes because you don't want your CEO to not have a fucking non-compete. Like that's like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess
that would be weird. That would be strange.
Yeah.
That would be like a trash, like a burning trash can of a company. If like you're worried about your CEO.
What? All right. So what's this overtime rule thing? Because I know that was another big thing that just well that was a couple months ago. But what's the deal with that now?
You're talking about something else.
Again, or was that separate?
It was separate, but it came out. I'm trying to find it because I'm pretty certain that one of our new writers wrote about it yesterday. I saw it like hit. Where is it? Long story short, because I think the TIA came out about it, and they were, of course, not happy with it. It's on Twitter. I know I saw it on Twitter. Because someone Brielle, I think, tagged me in it. It's basically increases the salary amount for people that are still due overtime. Now, this doesn't also include what your job description is and what you're doing on a daily basis. Like you've probably heard Matt talk about quite frequently. Here it is. Let's see here. Department of Labor announced final rule Tuesday, along with the other ones. The revised regulations issued under the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Grace, do you want to share your screen so we can pull it up real quick? Or send me the link somehow, or send it through.
Yeah, I'll send you the.
We don't want to see what's on. We don't want to see what's on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's a couple things on here I gotta click on.
No worries.
I'll put it in the private chat really quick.
Perfect.
Basically, starting July 1st, salaried employees making less than $844 a week, equivalent to about $43,800 per year, will become eligible for overtime. So think about like all those like carrier rules, right? Or carrier roles.
Dude, companies are always going to find a way to not pay people. Like their whole business depends on not paying people, right? Like,
yeah,
I mean, you can't. I mean, that's probably a harsh way of putting it, but like,
well, likely what would happen is they're probably, what I've seen companies try to do is like change the commission plan to make up for the difference.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's what likely you'll see, but I mean, this one is going to be tough to try to get around. Especially, I mean, for me, it's more of like, the salary is what most people look at when they're looking at a job. So it's like if you're gonna put the salary super low, even if it has a high commission, like I want to make sure I'm bringing a certain amount home.
So this still applies to base like salespeople with a very low base salary. They still will need to be compensated for that overtime that they're working. Is that Okay.
Yep. So if someone is in a sales role and they're making what $40,000 a year,
Mhm.
then they would be automatically eligible for overtime if they're working
All brokerages instantly raise their salary to
forty
$43,889.
$44,000.
Immediately.
Yeah,
I would
effective
say most
immediately.
are
You guys
pretty
are all
high.
getting a raise.
Exactly.
I mean,
I love that. I just
these
love
guys,
I love seeing things like this and knowing like the next morning that there's a bunch of people in like a back office like what are we gonna do? Like
how do we not follow this rule?
oh my god, so good.
I mean, I get it from a business case standpoint. Like a lot of these
Yeah.
companies, like it's not like people are printing money right now. So, or actually, well, the brokers are, man. I mean, 70% margins, like it's pretty easy to
It's
make
not
a
really
shitload of them.
it's not really like that big like of margins at the moment. It's kind of like I think Covenant's an asset-based carrier, but there was a couple of reports this week that it wasn't looking really like too hot. Overall net profit margins were down, it seemed like, even for brokers. Trying to pull up one of the articles, one of the things that we reported on for this, but I know trucking stocks themselves were like completely tanked recently. And that I have up in front here, which I can pull up.
Well, I mean, Heartland's there's like 106% operating margin or whatever. So and they're normally like they're like a pretty well-run company. So, tough.
Ford has been down almost 20% in last month. Ford Air, JB Hunt. Basically everything is just, for the most part, besides ArcBest, but everything's been down for the most part, and this is like kind of as of April 21st. So unfortunately, that's kind of like, it was expected to an extent, right? Like we're in a freight recession at the moment, so there's really not much else that you could probably.
What other news is there? What about Grace? Talk about. We got tech bros on the chat with us right now. These guys.
You do.
So what's going on in the what's going on? What have you written about lately?
Well, I put out like this morning. I put out a discussion I had with Wabash and their trailers as a service offering, which you probably have heard about through. I originally wrote about it through their partnership with Freightvana on this as well, and this I think this isn't as like I guess techy in regards to like AI and in freight and brokerage offices and stuff like that, but. I to consider because for OEMs in particular, and especially as we start to see more technology put inside the actual assets, right? I think we're going to see more of these they're going to have to start offering more of these aftermarket services in order to continue to make as much, honestly, revenue as they have in the past. Right, like if you're not, as the trailers and the trucks continue to perform better and stay on the road longer, etc. Like, okay, it's kind of like a Tesla, right? Like, what are the other things that you can purchase inside, or even your iPhone? Like, what are the apps that you have that are going to continue to drive revenue in some type of way? So these like aftermarket services, I think, are going to become really interesting offerings just to stay competitive and alive in the space. I think. There's a study I did or I read like over a year ago. I think it was like IBM or something did it, and it was like a $60 billion market of after services from OEMs that could like possibly grow out of this. So for me, it's Wabash is like one of my favorite ones to kind of watch because they're just. I've talked to their leadership numerous times, and they're just like gung ho on realizing like what they're doing. Well, they're on their way now, but what they're doing right now isn't their future, right? And so that's kind of like a fun area to look into. Is like, what will these aftermarket services look like? Will there be like, I think a big one, right, is like managing, uh, using telematics to make sure that your equipment is getting into the shop way earlier than the chance of like a breakdown happening with it, right? And using that data.
There's
Yeah,
a
go for
huge
it.
opportunity around smart trailers.
Yeah.
in so many different ways. And I think one of the ways that also hasn't necessarily, at least I haven't seen explored too much outside of so far, like what I was working on a couple of years ago, was like inside the trailer, what's going on, how much cargo is being loaded, when is it being loaded, offloaded, and kind of like
Yeah.
of the overall system. I haven't seen that actually been implemented like at scale yet. There are like some offerings that you can put in cameras inside, but I did have like a couple of conversations too with Wabash. Wabash happens to be here. Sorry, I think it's Wabash that's here headquartered in Chicago. Funny enough, downtown.
Yeah.
But they were definitely thinking about what does a smart trailer kind of look like, and actually more so like what does electrification of a trailer actually look like, because it's like it's actually pretty perfectly positioned to be somewhat of like a, how you have an iPhone and you have like an extra battery pack of a phone
Yeah.
case. So there was a company that we interviewed. It's called Range Energy. Maybe Grace, you've heard of them?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're working obviously on the trailer electrification problem itself. So even actually, Hyliion started out the company as a trailer electrification, but I guess they pivoted out of that. They pivoted now maybe twice, but I remember that there was like a battery pack that they attached to the trailer, and if you went downhill, it captured the energy, and then you could use it to basically kind of like reduce the fuel mileage uphill. But yeah, smart trailers are super interesting. And so, Grace, you're saying that like
And like in that play too, Christian, like what I see happening is like someone like Range, right, kind of being the early adopter, getting all the kinks out, getting the investors, spending the money, and then when it's truly like time to hit the road, that's when I think you're going to start seeing people like, not to say Wabash will, but OEMs now starting to acquire those companies and then applying that right into their services. Yeah.
That's interesting that they're actually considering getting into like trailers as a service. That's
Yeah. Oh, it's a like a big offering already from them. That's what the conversation was about. I mean, for them, it's like if something happens with that trailer, if you're down, no downtime, right? Like we immediately will get a trailer out to you, and you're ready to go. And I mean, I know most of us have been in the brokerage space at some point. Like, there's nothing worse than hearing about a breakdown. You're just like, oh well. I'm gonna go take a sig break right now because this isn't gonna be a great rest of my day. Like, and imagine a world, right, where like that's not happening, and instead the conversation back is awesome. Well, who's your trailer provider, and when are they getting you another trailer? Who is your you see this in the mechanic space. I think it's My Mechanic is a company out there that's kind of working on this too.
Alex.
You know what I'm talking
We
about?
don't talk
Yes,
about
okay.
Alex on this. We don't pitch Alex on this damn show.
But like that concept,
Yeah.
right? Of like, yeah, I know he's gonna. I owe him a shout out, so that's kind of what. But but that like that type of environment, right? Like that's I think for me, like being in the broker space, like dealing with all those problems, knowing that conversation turns into, well, I'm gonna hang up the phone and go punch a wall right now, into, well, no problem. Let me get you connected with this offering who will get a mechanic out there in the next 20 minutes. Like, talk about again, like value added services within this industry. That's where it gets cool.
Yeah, I haven't seen any. I mean, not to. I haven't seen anything else like My Mechanic, at least an effort around that space, and being able to call a mechanic right now. Like when I had to call it one time myself, and it was a little bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you. I didn't know who to call. I was just like looked up on Google Maps, like, where's your mechanic? And it just so happened maybe they didn't even do trucks, but they just called themselves a mechanic, and like wasting time. I have a lot of downtime, and then they're kind of getting angry at me that I don't know who the hell they are. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you guys, but it's not exactly clear that whether you do truck repair or not, on your Google Maps posting. So,
dude, there was nothing.
Well,
there's
then
nothing
you're like
worse.
finding a tow too. Like there's so much other stuff that goes into it.
Bro, I would say like 99% of the time I had a driver who I didn't know break down. It was like basically impossible to get any information about what was happening. Like, Like, I mean, that might just mean that they were lying, but like, dude, shop receipt. Oh, hey, like it's reasonable. Oh, you're broken down. Okay, well, where? All right, I'm here. Like, okay, what shop you at? And those two questions, getting an answer to like something as basic as that is like almost impossible in some situations.
Well,
Like,
imagine like a connective world where it's like you could see what and the truck broke down and like they actually like had that visibility to know where they are. Like those conversations. What's
the problem
worse,
is, dude, the
asking those
problem is that
questions?
a lot of companies are like bank on or opacity is like an asset to a lot of companies. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like putting shit on the rail, like you don't want anyone to know where anything is ever. And
I think it's so true. Oh my god. See, I'm being like triggered right now thinking about this stuff from back. But yeah, like having an account and just being like, dude, admit it, you put it on the rail, like we can like move on with our lives, and I don't have to call you every 3 seconds. And they're like, no, I swear he's broken. Or I had a guy once where he's like, you know, his truck is like not working, but he's rolling, and so just call us and we'll give you an update. And it was like this dude was like moving like 25 miles an hour for like 7 days. And I'm like, this is not real.
Oh boy.
Like why do you even for me it's like, you know, they always say about like white lies. It's like then you have to like live them and they just stack like why yeah, why like live a week in like a world that doesn't exist? Just tell me you put it on the rail.
Dude, no.
My freight.
White. If I started a trucking company, it would be called White Lie Express. It's or White Lie Enterprises, maybe.
Wait, but hold on. Can we just take a moment and acknowledge the fact that Reed actually started like his entire journey on like the freight, community with a excuse generator for freight brokers?
Yeah, true.
I used that for freight brokers, right? Or for drivers?
I mean, no, it was supposed to be for drivers, but whatever. It's the same shit. Like, the driver lies to the broker, and then the broker. So the driver lies to the broker, and then the broker like spins that, and then tells the shipper. So there's like it's like a game of lie telephone, basically. Most of the time,
was the worst. Is like whenever like I just got to a point where it's like I just stopped lying and just been like, even if it was the craziest thing the driver said, like I'm just gonna pass it on, because that's the worst. Is like karma would bite you in the ass so bad if you like made up another lie on top of their lie, and then all of a sudden this guy just like shows up out of nowhere, and they're like, I thought you said he wasn't gonna be here until Thursday, and he's just like on their front porch now. So yeah, it's
as long as it gets delivered.
Lie. And it always does, maybe it's damaged.
Maybe
that's
we need to attach an AI. Maybe let's bring this conversation to AI. Why don't we build like an AI lie detector, and just like you just put it on top of all outbound communication, like all driver to broker communication, and then all broker to shipper communication. Just put like a lie rating in the chances this is a lie.
We can try that.
Yeah, there you go. Stop everything you're doing and pivot to this. Like, we just need we need honesty in this industry.
Adrian,
Gen logs with so they put cameras at different places, and you can have visibility of all the trucks and trailers going around, so they can actually like recover stolen trailers, and maybe over time they'll have more visibility on the trailer from the gate to the highway.
Well, next thing you know, all these carriers are going to be just off-roading. That's what they're going to do. They're just going to go off-roading.
Oh, I used to do like really big, heavy raw material loads, and I remember there's one guy who was just like so well priced, and one day I was just like, how are you doing this? And he's like, honey, if we're on this side of the Mississippi, I can get anything, anywhere, no permits necessary.
Oh boy.
So I'm like, you're just running on those back roads.
Don't ask any fucking questions, Grace. God damn it.
It's like, God, does he move like 60,000 pound like aluminum loads for me? And I'm like, how are you doing this at such a fair price? And he's like, not buying permits. He's like, I got pulled over once in like Michigan. And he was like, I paid this like state like think it was like $30,000 on the spot. But I mean, think how much he's made not running permits for like 30
Grace, not for you to know, not for you to care.
years.
Basically, so what he's telling you, more or less. But
Oh my god, that's funny.
yeah, but Genlogs really is, I would say that's like the next kind of like in terms of tech, tech step function changes of like what's going to happen in freight. I think the fact that you can give them like, Ryan Joyce, CEO of Genlogs, he's posted about this on LinkedIn before where, somebody emailed him and said, hey, I think it was a trailer of copper, a load of copper that was stolen. And they gave him I believe basically they gave him like the MC number that, they had and truck number or something of that kind. And they were able to basically identify that the truck, drove past one of its cameras on the highways. And I think he showed basically two trucks, and asked the person like, hey, is this truck, do you guys own this truck, like a blue Volvo or something like that? And like, yeah, that's ours. And then there was another one, like a red Peterbilt. He's like, no, we don't own that one. And so that's more or less how they kind of like deduced and figured out that red Peterbilt is the one that's kind of hauling the stolen cargo. So I thought that was really cool. And I mean, nothing like that really has existed before, to my knowledge. There's really no way to kind of also, get a pulse on like where a stolen load might be in the United States. But that's I'm super bullish. I know, Reed, you're bullish on Genlogs as well. But
I know. Yeah.
we should have Ryan do a live demo on one day, maybe on FreightCon or on Tech Bro Tuesday. I think that'd be pretty cool.
We'll get him.
We'll get him. So.
What else can we talk about?
I think. Well, I mean, not to kind of circle back on it, but there was some news regarding that FTC, decision today. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is I think challenging that decision. I just don't know like how successful it's actually going to be. But Grace, what have you heard on this so far?
I saw Leffler like post on it. Sounds like it's likely going to happen. Is like there'll be some lawsuit out there that makes its way through its like the state courts and works its way up to the Supreme Court, and it'll likely end up having to be like a Supreme Court like laying down the law on it at some point. But I mean, that what's interesting to me is I mean, especially here in Michigan, like we're very most courts are very for the employee. And depending on what state you're in, that differs, right? Like clearly, Cincinnati, Ohio might swing a little differently in some cases for that three-letter wonderful company down there. But that would be what a world that would be if like the Supreme Court in a TQL case ended up being like what fixes or figures out now.
United States versus TQL.
again, right? Like,
wait, it happened already once?
Well, wasn't that's how like they figured out the whole like 45% RIP thing was because that had made its way to the federal government, I
Oh
thought.
my God.
No. Oh, the overtime, the hours working was a federal case.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, feds take labor law seriously, so.
Let's see what else. Trying to think here. What else? Okay. So there's something new today that about the FMCSA actually taking some initiative to fight some fraud finally, which is pretty cool.
What?
Yes. So here we got the FMCSA. It's not fraud in general, but it's just registration. It's about registration fraud. So they are planning to establish. They haven't done this yet, but at least there's an initiative going in to build a team to fight registration fraud overall. And one of the interesting mechanisms that they're planning on implementing is swapping online pin requests to be sent instead of sent to your email. They're going to send those pins to your via snail mail to your registered business address. So the online registration process is gonna. It seems like they're gonna introduce some friction to it, which I don't know what you guys think, but while that might make things maybe a little bit more difficult, I think that's actually maybe a good thing that
Yeah.
you go and slow the process down slightly, because at the end of the day, it's not like every single day everybody in the United States is registering a trucking company. So, I feel like,
Well, like on a Google Maps listing, they'll send you a code to your address to verify the business to make sure that Google Maps listing is accurate. So probably similar thing than.
yeah, something similar to that. Yeah. But I don't know what do you guys think about that? Like, would that make sense? Like, you guys see that actually working?
1,000%. I think Adam Wingfield was on the radio with me a couple of weeks ago, and this is he actually was like in DC talking to someone about this, and
Okay.
I 100% think it's fair. I think it's just like too simple. Like at least like you said, slow down the process. That's a big part of it. But really forcing people to use those physical addresses, I think is going to be big. Probably likely find ways to like get around it, but I mean,
that's the whole dude. I mean, when there's a will, there's a way. Like these guys are gonna figure it out.
but it's gonna take more energy, right, than you would consider. So, and also like you're gonna have to truly. I think I'm looking at this almost more of like maybe those who just want to enter the space because they heard how lucrative it could be, right? Like it's just another step to kind of like weed out your efforts and make sure that someone seriously who wants to get in a truck and I guess take an actual seriously moving forward and not maybe get us to where we are today when there's too much capacity out there and people driving themselves into the ground quite literally.
For example, rent a Penske truck to just pass your inspection report, and then just go in and give the Penske rental back. For example, like things like
Yeah.
that, worth looking into a little bit more. So it's how a lot of like that's the newest method for like double brokers, basically, registering their companies that they rent out a Penske truck. Slap on some signs, go and get a.
Well, did you see the picture of the guy with the Sharpie, like the road down
Yeah.
the company?
Yeah. That's crazy too. So it's always gonna be a cat and mouse game at the end of the day. But at least this is like a pretty good first step. So it seems like they're gonna be doing some identity verification as well, with like live photo verification for registrants. That's gonna be interesting. I know there's a bunch of services that do that.
Like Stripe.
Yeah, Stripe for payment processing, I believe provides like identity verification as well. So,
and even I think I just wrote about that. Was it Freight Validate, where like now they're starting to actually like use the Face ID of like drivers, right? So like, is your driver like set up in your system like the literal is quite literal face, right? Like I think that we all have it. Again, it's on our phones. It's not like this technology is like being built, so why aren't we deploying it in those type of ways?
Yeah, definitely.
I have no opinions on this.
None.
No, not really. Not really. It's all just I mean, who knows? I really don't. I'm not big on like the whole compliance thing. I don't really think about it from like the broker, like the company scale. It's more like, I don't know. I feel like it's if you just work with the people, like you don't really matter. Like
like all it does come down to is like relationships at the end of the day. Like, and that's the big problems, right? Like with fraud, it's like a lot of it takes place on the load boards. It's like, well, get the fuck off the load boards and see how quickly those fraudulent pickups like start to
I mean, I haven't booked a load on a load board in like a year and a half. So like I don't know. When I ran the Cradle Grave stuff, like I booked like everything on the load board, and I had like 2 issues ever, and for like over a year. And I don't know. I mean, people say like every call is like a fraudulent carrier or whatever. I mean, is that real? Like,
Okay, I do
in
I
the comments.
yeah.
I have a story about this. We were doing a shipper CRM demo one time, and this guy, he was a brand new broker. Brand new broker, I believe, and he was getting contacted by, like, on the demo within 30 minutes. He got 4 phone calls from basically companies with an MC posing. I believe they were posing. They were posing as I forgot what the arrangement was, but like he basically took their MC number, looked them up, and like on highway or something, and every single one on that demo was basically reported as a double broker. So I guess I don't know if there's like
I
something.
think it's gotten worse. It's funny because I asked some I'm not gonna name names. I asked a few people in the industry are running brokerages, like, okay, are we dealing with like a real problem, or do we have compliance teams just like letting idiots take loads, and we're finally eating shit for it? And he was like, I am fighting fraud every single day here. And so oh, here's my cat. So yeah, I think I just wonder, Reed, like if it's with where tech is today and how easy it is, like kind of we bring this back to the FMCSA thing, to set up like a fake entity, if people have just finally caught on, like um which is kind of crazy to think about.
You're
But
saying caught on in which way? Like caught on how?
like if scammers have just, yeah, if like just scammers in general have like caught on and how easy it is to like penetrate. Well, one of the biggest issues I ran into in our brokerage was we had a load of like large tires once that was supposed to go up to Alaska, and it started moving, and the driver was like it picked up in like Arizona, I want to say, but this dude was like riding the border. And I was like, okay, this is like, one of my reps is like, can we call this dude? Like, I was like, maybe he's going home. It was like a Friday. Maybe he's going to go home for the week, but like, seems like a lot of deadhead miles to waste going the wrong way. And um, long story short, like the, it, the driver was real, and he had been sold a different load, same pickup location, but going to Miami. And then at the drop off location, Miami was like a shady as fuck looking tire shop. And so all they were doing was like reading the load boards, scanning the load boards for tires so that they could purchase them and flip them. Right. And I think that's where it's like people are being more creative for why they are in this industry and doing shady stuff. It's not like a shitty double broker just wants to kind of make 90 days worth of invoices and get the fuck out. Like people are like, oh, I could stack inventory in my shady tire shop by just stealing tire loads off the load board, or some other type of materials, right? And so that's where I think it's people are catching on that we have very little limitations to someone doing that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of comments here. It seems like Eric Ransom saying it's a huge advance for FMCSA. I think we'd agree. Good way to curb the issue. I hope that they do more. I hope they don't stop here. But it seems like that with the team being formed, it's starting to become a priority for them. So shout out to all the companies that are helping, fight fraud protection. I think it's a lot of, maybe a lot of it is probably coming from their effort to try to get the government's awareness, and maybe TIA, potentially as well. But yeah, I think overall that's
Yeah, I guess like shout out to the FMCSA for like doing something.
yes,
Like
100%.
that's like just like updating a thing, like it doesn't even, for me, I don't even want to give them like the way to fight fraud. For me, it's like cool, double authentication. I'm glad we're seeing it somewhere, like,
Yeah, these yeah. Maybe they'll form a focus group and then a committee, and then there'll be some suggestions or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
The
know.
one thing I don't know if I haven't been able to wrap my head around is this this talk and chatter about like getting rid of the US dot number and just going to an MC number.
I thought it was the other way around.
US dot
No.
numbers are for like the vehicles themselves, so you can have a US dot number and an MC number if you're.
I thought they were getting rid of MC numbers.
No, I think he's right. I think it was like
consolidating to an MC number.
yeah.
And when I read that, I didn't exactly understand like what the point necessarily speaking there was, because just going from 2 numbers to 1 doesn't seem to me like it would do that much, unless there was something, under the hood that they're going to be doing.
Changes include ending MC numbers and using US DOT numbers as the sole identifier for carriers and brokers moving forward.
The read was right. Okay. But I just don't see how that's, I mean, if their goal there is to just consolidate information and make it simpler, things simpler, great, fine. But then they're going to need to have an identifier that delineates between like, are you a broker or are you a carrier? Because at the moment, at least the way I kind of differentiate between the two is like, if you have a US dot number, that means you have assets, you're running,
Yeah.
And if you have an MC number and only an MC number, that means you're a broker.
Maybe they just like ran out of a second filer. Like they can only afford one person to file one number, and so this is this is just a cut of staff. The FMCSA.
It's a great initiative to lower the overall government budget deficit, and
Yeah, exactly.
good start in the right direction. So
too much tax dollars was going to the FMCSA.
Say for usage of an MC number. So
Safer website. What a website.
We'll see what all these people do.
Yeah,
we'll see what's going on.
Reed, you're like clearly not ever like a class president or anything like that. Like you just like not support bureaucracy.
I actually was on student council, but we did things a little differently.
Oh, okay.
No bureaucracy. No, I don't have the patience for it. And honestly, the whole fraud conversation is so tired. Like I don't.
Yeah.
It's just you go to these conferences and it's just all people talk about, and fuck, it's just not to say it's not an issue. Obviously, it's an issue, but
I mean, it's tiring. I don't know if I wouldn't say it's tiring to me. I would just simply say that like you can clearly tell that it is a very big point of attention now to many companies. A lot of companies are forming around it. Is that technically what's needed usually to address issues like this? Probably, because otherwise,
and it's probably because they're starting to actually lose dollars from it. They're like, oh wow, like we're really eating a lot of this freight here from it being stolen off the trucks, right? Before it was just like every once in a while you're dropping money on pallets here and there, but once you start losing 5 copper loads a year, you're like, maybe something's wrong with this. But I wish it was that honesty. I think that's like my point where I agree with Reed. It's like what there's like when you do hear these discussions on fraud, it's like it's bad, and we're working with the FBI. It's like, well, cool. We're content people. It's like, what did you help the FBI do? Like, or which I'm sure you at some level can't talk about it, or like, what's bad? What's bad mean to you? How much did your business lose from this problem?
Yeah.
And no one wants to get into the fun points of this stuff. So it just turns into like all these big dogs talking about how things are being stolen off trucks. It's like, yeah, no shit. Like
speaking of FBI, like I think we did a podcast with Anne, the president of TIA, like about I don't know, maybe a year ago or something like this. And one of the things that we brought up there was that a lot of this fraud takes place actually overseas, and it's basically outside of the jurisdiction of the FBI. And so there's very little, I guess, that they can do, which I don't exactly really know how that part of the equation gets solved, because if it's outside the U.S. jurisdiction, it's like,
Well, and with I think even with cross border, like state border trade, it's like I mean, we've all been in a situation, at least I have, right, where a load's been taken hostage over some like bullshit. Like, it sucks because like you can't call the police. Like, the police are like, I guess, call the police at the pickup spot. And you're like, well, the pickup spot was in Texas and this dude is in Delaware. Like, what is that gonna do, right? And so I think that's what kind of sucks too, is even on like a very small bullshit level, like there's where is the jurisdiction, and like who are you gonna call to like fix that problem? So then you're just like realizing you're stuck in this situation where you have to like maneuver the other asshole on the phone in order to not have this go. I'm gonna have him pull over on the side of the road and just leave the trailer here, and it's like who do I call for that? Like,
it's
where?
not simple, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is no police for it, which is,
Dude, you know what
You're
though?
like, what are the police gonna do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
You gotta just send him a con check.
File a report, and the guy like goes back to like his other state that's like 8 states away, like, and then just sits there like, no.
You know, it's all fun.
all right, guys.
That used to be fun though.
We're coming up on time for this week. Grace, thank you very much for joining us. Adrian, Dilo as well. Reed, as always. We're gonna close this out with the gong ring, and we will see you all next week.
Chris, you can't hear it, but that's okay.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, let's go. All right,
All right, guys. Thank you.
See ya.
See you guys. Bye.